All right, good morning, folks. Welcome to another session on Antwalk in the domain of digital marketing. Very warm welcome to everybody on this Saturday morning. Today we have a very accomplished speaker, Tushar. I'll quickly introduce him and then we will use this session as an Ask Me Anything kind of a session. This session is completely for you guys. Please make sure that you put forward your questions for Tushar and he will pick up as many as possible during this 60-minute session. At the same time, I request you guys to stay on mute. And if you do have questions, do raise your hand and we can try and see if we can pick up some audio conversations as well. So with that, let me get started. Once again, a very warm welcome to everyone on the call today. Today, the session is a very interesting topic, how to become a data-driven digital marketer, especially when more and more businesses are moving digital and online, and how the way marketing has, the spend on marketing has completely started moving towards the digital side. How do you ensure that you are using all the data that is getting captured and therefore becoming a more productive digital marketer and more effective digital marketer? So that's the topic for the day. With that, let me introduce our speaker for the day, Tushar. Welcome, Tushar.
Hi, hello everyone. Thank you for having me here. Thanks,
Sure.
Shida.
My pleasure. Yeah. So quick intro about Tushar. He's a marketing professional with tons of experience, more than 15 years of experience in digital marketing, digital transformation, brand building, new product launches, of course, customer relationship management, and marketing strategy. And interestingly, the work that he has done covers multiple industries, whether it is travel, FMCG, media, finance, you name it, and he has worked in that space. And he brings with him, experience in leading multifunctional teams across the marketing, domains, whether it's creative, project management, content, analytics. Is a focus on today's discussion, and of course, managing external partners to drive, growth. He's also led CRM projects for his organization, and it was chosen by Microsoft for publishing a case study on CRM implementation and program management. Congratulations for that, Tushar. And
Thank you.
with that, I will take a pause and let you introduce yourself if I have missed anything.
No, I think it was more than what I've done, but I think I have been fortunate to work in different industries and different areas of work. So I think it gives me a good understanding of offline and digital marketing. So I hope I'll be able to contribute something today, and people attending this session can take away something from what we speak in next 1 hour.
Perfect. With that, so like I said, folks, this is a session for you guys. It's a completely open session. While I will start the conversation with a few overarching questions, I request you guys to start putting your questions in the chat box. And we will pick up the questions as and when we see it in the chat box. Yeah. So with that, Tushar, let me set the context right. First by asking this question, right? What is data-driven marketing?
Okay, so I will change this term a little bit, as in more than data-driven marketing, I would call it data-driven decision making. So, or data-based decision making, because marketing will remain same, as in what you do in marketing will remain same. And don't think that it is a new phenomena which has been introduced after the introduction of digital marketing. Data-based decision making or data-driven marketing was always there, but we used to get limited data as against what we get now. Now you get loads of data, and now you have to make sense of what all you are getting. So before that also, when you used to do say offline marketing, say TV ad or say activation or promotion in the stores, you would gauge the response or performance basis, what are the footfalls, what is the uptake on retail counters, and so on and so forth. And basis that you used to make a decision. So ultimately, it was in a way data-driven marketing only. But now, since the introduction of digital, we get much more data than we used to get, and we are more empowered to, make decision basis data. So ultimately, it is data-based decision making more than data-driven marketing. Ultimately, what decisions you make with that data is more important, whether it is marketing or sales or anything. But yes, in marketing also it is very important. Yeah, I can't hear you. I think you are on mute now.
Yeah, folks, I request you guys to stay on mute so that it's a pleasant experience for everybody else. Thanks for that. Perfect. So Tushar, does this, how has the, when you said the data, there's more data, right? So what has led to that, and what kind of data is coming, available to marketeers now that, and how should they go about using it?
Yeah, so in digital world now, everything is trackable, right? That's why marketers are moving to digital more and more, or why budgets are shifting to digital more, is because marketers or the decision makers or CEOs or category heads are able to look at that data and make some decisions based on some data, right? So say for example, if you are running a Google campaign, then you will get data right from how many people actually saw the ad, or kind of impression share it got, to how many people clicked, how many actually came to your website, how many converted, which SKU got converted, through which payment method, what was the entry point, so on and so forth. And you get multiple data points. And with every medium or every new digital platform that we use, you get more and more data, and then ultimately you have to make a sense of it. So that's the data we are getting. And of course, every team, every division in a organization is trying to make sense of that data and taking away insights that they want, which will help them. For example, say a creative guy gets the same data of say YouTube ad that is running, and then he might want to compare which ad ran or which ad got more views or more clicks as against other ads that he had run in the past. Or category guy would want to look at which product was highlighted in which ad, whether that ad got more visibility or more clicks or more traction or no. So every division can make a sense of that data, and that's why it is very important to know what data we are getting and how we want to use it.
Understood. Understood. And I mean, needless to say, definitely, having the data is useful. But if you had to articulate, um, how has it helped you as a marketeer, right? If you could
Yeah.
use some, couple of examples to say the benefits of having this data, because a lot of times what happens is too much data, and then we end up doing a lot of, insights and analysis, and then maybe again go back to our gut, right? Does that happen, or is
Yes.
there a clear benefit of using this data?
Okay, I'll make it little broad, Shira. So what data has done for me or any of the marketers? One is it has brought in a lot of performance focus,
Hmm.
right? Earlier, as in pre-digital world, see, digital is at the most what, 12, 13 years old in the country. As in, obviously, digital advertising was happening. Google had entered the market some 15 years back. But real focus came in, I think, around 10, 12 years back. And from there, it started scaling up. So before that, also, we used to uh, do the ads. Say we used to spend ads on TV or money on TV or a print, but it didn't used to directly result into a sale. As in, there was no connection between what we were spending and actual sale that was happening on ground. Now, with the emergence of say e-commerce and digital, and any ability to connect all the dots, you know what you are advertising and whether it is resulting into something. Whether your focus is say lead generation or say booking or say order, or it can even be visits on website. If it is a content heavy website or it is some service which is B2B, then you may not get transaction with every advertise you show, or the frequency may not be that high, but you may want to generate more and more visits from relevant audience to the website. So one first thing it has done is it has brought performance focus. So you try to find out if I am spending say 100 rupees, then that what that 100 rupees are giving me. So that is one benefit that has uh, done to say marketers and even to organizations, because organizations are trying to optimize what they are spending, and they are trying to make it as black and white as possible. That is one benefit I can see.
Correct.
Then media selection is another benefit. So depending on your objective, you can decide whether Facebook is working for you or Google is working for you, or your objective is brand building, so or views on your say ad. Then whether OTT is working for you better, or you want to build more reach and you want to go to YouTube. So media selection has become not simpler, but at least you have some basis to choose media. That is another benefit that we have derived. Then you can see the trends and whether trends are improving or no. So for example, you are doing say brand building on digital, then it may not give you direct results in terms of say bookings or orders, but it may slowly increase your brand searches on Google. Or it might just slowly start giving some variance in terms of sales in the marketplace. It may not result in direct sales, but slowly people will start buying some SKU more that you are advertising. But these trends you can figure out. Or you get trends like if you are in a category of say travel, then you know which searches for which destinations are increasing or going down, or for which international destination what people are talking about, and basis that you can make your decisions in terms of what product you want to promote, what service you want to promote. So trend analysis is another benefit we get. Then you can define a vision, right? You can define that if this is what, if my gut feel is X, but market and response from digital or whatever you are doing in the market is showing Y, then you can shift your vision, you can shift your targets. You can say that yes, my gut feel was I would want to sell say 128 MB phone, but market is showing only 64 MB selling, or market is showing only phone with better camera selling better than a waterproof one. So, but my vision was to sell waterproof, but in the market something else is happening. So you can shift your target, shift your vision basis the data, and you are getting very rich data to make such decisions right now. And
very interesting.
Yeah, and finally product selection. So what product, how I want to go about launching something. So with the data, uh, you know marketers have something to back on. Earlier your failure, there was no support in your failure, right? For marketers now, at least you have data to show.
Correct.
So marketers can rely on something to make the decision, and they can say that I made the decision because data showed me this. After that, result may or may not come sometimes, because it depends on multiple factors. I mean, what is happening in the market, or what creative says, or whether creative is accepted well. But at least marketers have something to rely on while making the decision, because you are making multi-million dollar decisions when you are going live with a campaign, and it is a big money, and you go with a certain risk in the market for yourself, for your organization also. If you are launching a mega campaign and you are launching a big product, then you go with certain risk, right? But if you have data to back you up, then at least you can make your 50-60% decision basis that data. Obviously there will always be 40% gut feel or risk, or you will go ahead with, but at least 60% you are covered in some sense.
Correct. No, that's very interesting. I think Ashish actually asked this question. How marketers are using data, and I think you more or less covered the different
Yeah.
facets of that. So great. We have one more question from. I might be pronouncing this name wrong, but let me go with the middle name, Ronal. Ronal Singh. He says, "I am a T-shirt manufacturer, and how to track data to make most of it in terms of marketing and product development."
Yeah, it depends on where he's marketing that t-shirt
Hmm.
and as in what exactly he's using to market the t-shirt. So I think if you could share that, then I will have more idea about.
Ronal, can you unmute and talk?
Well, very good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
And we have been developing this product for a while, and our manufacturing setup is based in Chennai. And we are trying to promote this product on the social media, especially using affiliate marketers, as this term was, booming in the market. So we thought, why not we try affiliate marketing and promote this product? So it was very hard to track affiliate marketers in terms of their capabilities and in terms of their, how they will, generate the lead. So we were confused, and we talked, a couple of lead generators from Facebook, and they come to a conclusion that, sir, it is not easy, but we can do at the cost of rupees 5,000, we can generate at least 100 customers out of 5,000 rupees. So it's like a throwing a stone in the dark place. So we thought, why not to track data and the product develop the product in terms of the market, in terms of the data we have in the market, or rather the platform that we are going to use. So we try to use the competitors' website, for example, Bevcoof, and we talk a lot of people or the customers. Bevcoop's customers, and try to know their perspective in terms of the price point in which the price. If we talk about 500 to 600 rupees price point of the T-shirt, and if we are going to market at the same price range, first we need to understand Bevcoop's customers in terms of their purchasing power and in terms of their perspective. So we try here and there, but all thing went in vain. And we have another rating point here is that we have chose, I think, 10 niches, and out of 10 niches we have done 3 niches: regional one, animation, and the motivation. I think 3 are working and the rest are not working. So it is very hard to understand MVP also. So in this regard, if you can throw some light, then definitely it will be very helpful for me and for my team.
What is MVP?
Minimum.
Minimum viable product. Basically, he wants to figure out what is that smallest product that he can take to market before he improves on it.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so I don't know whether I'll be able to give you marketing strategy in this session, but I can tell you what you should look at.
Yeah.
I think if your objective is sale and you have already manufactured certain t-shirts, and the objective is to first get that stock moving and see what is working and what is not. So I don't know whether affiliate is the right strategy or social media is the right strategy, but I know for sure that Bevcoof and these kind of guys have used social media extensively, and most of their traction has started coming from social. And if your t-shirts are in the zone of messages or innovative t-shirts and stuff like that, then obviously you want people to understand why somebody should purchase your t-shirt, right? If it is not just about quality. First parameter, I think what you should look at is you should look at what is your margin, what margin you are ready to give away initially, and whether you are getting return for the buck you are spending. So for example, say you have say 15% margin on your SKU without doing any marketing effort, right? And initially you are saying I will invest whatever margin I have spare with me in all my marketing effort because my first objective is to capture market share, right? In that case, you have to see whether at least you are breaking even with your marketing effort. Are you getting me? So your cost of acquisition should be zero at least. It should not be minus. That can be your first data point you can look at, and you know whether. So you will have to define what you are ready to give away to capture that market share. So whatever activity you do, ultimately, if the objective is getting sale on those SKUs, and if you still continue not getting the sale at right acquisition cost, then probably you will have to experiment with another SKU and see.
Great. I think the just to Ronald, just to add to that, right? I think what Tushar is suggesting is, given that you are able to, you have a product in place, you understand what is the cost of building that or creating that product, then bake into the budget for your marketing should be such that you are able to, after accounting for that cost, you should be able to break even to begin with, right? No profit, no loss kind of a thing. Now, with that budget in place, you can then optimize saying, okay, these are the 3 channels. Maybe affiliate is one channel, social media ads is another channel, and third could be something else, right? Could be through social commerce, for example, right? So you can break your budgets into the different channels and see which one is giving you a better performance, and then double down on that rather than just spray and praying. At least this is what I have also learned from Antworks marketing for the last 18 months or so. So we have looked at influencer marketing on Instagram. We have looked at LinkedIn ads. We actually felt that LinkedIn is going to be a lot more relevant for me because I might be able to reach out to the professional. But by the time I get that lead, it's become so expensive that I could not afford it.
Correct.
On the other hand, master classes and Facebook ads seem to do a lot more. Content is starting to pick up on YouTube for me, right? A lot of organic folks are coming on, registering on my platform. So you will have to look at channel by channel and understand where the, like Tushar said, where is the ROI for that spend that you're making, and then double down. Hope that helps.
But you have to make that decision on ROI, whether you are initially ready to make, sell it at a loss till you get a certain market share. That decision only you can make.
Correct.
So you might say that I want to give away 5 rupees from my cost, or I want to spend additional 5 rupees over to my cost to get at least say 1,000 people who will sustain, who will be sustainable buyers with me, or they will purchase at least twice in 6 months or something like that. But it's not a short game. Apparel is a long-term game. You can't gauge everything in a day's time, because if I buy a t-shirt from you, I am not going to keep buying every t-shirt from you only, right? So whether I am coming back to you is important.
Great. We have one more question from Ramchandra. I don't know whether you have the answer ready for this one, but he says, what is the blueprint to generate more leads in Facebook ad campaigns, especially when you're selling e-commerce products?
So in e-commerce, you want to generate lead or sale?
Ramchandra, are you there? I mean, if you can unmute and talk, I think that will be helpful. Yeah, I can see Ramchandra. Ramchandra, you want to unmute and speak?
Yes, yes.
Go for it.
So basically, I am having a small digital marketing agency, and I do run Facebook ads and Google ads for certain clients who are based out of US especially. And with the time, their demand is high. Like they were spending $1 means they're expecting something in that. So what is your suggestion on this?
No, can you just elaborate on question? You are the agency, you should be telling me.
Yes, right. So the question is like how to get best out of Facebook ads.
It's a difficult question. As in, I don't know how to answer it. Uh, it depends on what is the objective, right?
Let's assume client is asking for more sales and he's selling some e-commerce product, especially EV kind of EV products. So he would want me to generate more leads, like more sales when it comes to FB ads. Yes.
But I think it is a little broad question because I don't know how to explain on this forum how to optimize Facebook ad. As in, it's a little difficult to answer in this session. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with
Got it.
you, Tushar. But at the same time, if you can, let's use the data lens here. Like what kind of data points should, or what kind of variables should he assess to come with, a better strategy? Maybe that's the better question to answer here, right?
Okay, so
Yes.
I will try to answer. See, if the objective is sale or objective is e-commerce transaction, then again, like we were talking about in t-shirt case, cost of acquisition is a better metric to look at. So for example, if you are running say Google search, Facebook, and say let's say any third channel, let's say affiliate, these three channels you are running, probably Google search will give you higher intent user, and your cost of acquisition, your cost per lead might be higher, but ultimately more number of people will convert. Say your conversion is 10% on Google, but on Facebook your conversion is only 3%. Let's say, and that is usually the case, right? Because on search you get higher intent people, and on social you get lower intent people. But your lead on Facebook is say one third or less than one third cost as to Google search, then obviously Facebook is working better for you because your acquisition cost and to your lead cost ratio is better in case of Facebook. So you will have to ultimately, if the objective is sale and or objective is lead generation, then by platform you'll have to look at what is giving you better conversion and at what cost. So if Facebook is that channel, sometimes scalability becomes a problem with search. And if the objective is to reach more, then obviously you'll have to use platform like Facebook or say Insta, because the reach is much higher as compared to search.
Right. That's great, Tushar. Just one more thing I would like to add to this, Ramchandra, is like, make sure you understand your target audience better even before you start your ad campaign. Make sure that you understand not just the demography, but some kind of behavioral traits if you can figure out, and try to put that in your target audience so that you, instead of reaching out to a large set of people who may not be the relevant audience, if you can narrow that audience to higher customers who could be potential customers, then I think that would yield better results for you on Facebook, right? So make sure you try that as well. Cool. I think we have one question from Atib. I think he's asking what is the lead acquisition cost on LinkedIn. I think this is based on what I mentioned in the last answer. So Atib, I think it obviously depends on the category that you are looking at. But I guess in my case, since it's an education product and offering, it was pretty high because there are big players out there who have a big wallet to spend on LinkedIn, so it becomes very expensive for us. Next question is, I'm working with a group of few companies recently, and then started FMCG business for milk products in Greater Noida. And he wants to generate leads and sales via digital marketing. I am currently using Facebook ads for now, but what should be the best method to promote this one for under a 10-kilometer audience? So this is more of a geo-based targeting, Tushar.
Yeah, see, I don't want to promote any platforms here. So, so social is a good channel to reach out to geo specific audiences, because I understand it is a perishable product and you will have a distribution limitation in milk, and because it's your own business. So that is one way to do it. There is no harm in looking at cheaper offline mediums as well. If you want to do paper insert in your locality, please go ahead and do that. Don't get stuck on the channels or digital only because you are able to get some data from it. So if it is your own business and you're putting money, then you please use whatever is cheap and best, and you should go ahead with that. There are some location based tools that you can use. On Google you can do pin code targeting. So on Google Display or search also you can do pin code based targeting. YouTube you can do pin code based targeting. So pin code based targeting is another good way. There are other platforms which do GPS based targeting. So if there are some big complexes in your area which you want to target, they can do a targeting to the residents only in that particular complex. But I don't know what is minimum threshold they expect, what is minimum budget they expect, because in your case, if it is a small business, then you might and if their minimum requirement is say ₹1,00,000, then it may be uh, as in I don't know what volume you are working at, but then these partners have minimum threshold budget that they require, so that becomes a challenge sometimes. So otherwise, biddable channels is a good way to go initially.
Got it. Perfect. Next question is from Deepak Jeet Singh. His question is, are there any data analytical tools for social media marketing, especially for selecting audience for Facebook campaigns?
So Facebook itself has a great analytical tool, right? Facebook gives a lot of data cuts itself, and I think from that can be a good start. And Facebook's audience sizing is pretty accurate because we ourselves give a lot of data to Facebook as against Google, because Google divides your data basis your cookie behavior, and on Facebook knows what you are exactly doing. You are already giving your date of birth and your interests and preferences and your names, who is your spouse, who you are in relationship with, and all that you are willingly giving to Facebook. And plus you are putting up a lot of things on Facebook in terms of where you are traveling, what you're eating, what you're playing, what are your interests. So all that is getting captured, right? And so I think Facebook has richer data and it has unique audience data. Since Google is cookie based data, you might log into Google or websites from your mobile and desktop or your tablet. So it has 3 cookies. But in case of Facebook, you are logging in with your login ID. So it has only one unique cookie. So I think Facebook itself can give you much better targeting. There are other tools created by multiple technology guys, and they do some layering of data over Facebook, so that you can use. But initially I think you should use what Facebook is giving.
Understood. It's an interesting point you're making on both these fronts, right? For
Can't hear
example,
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, I wanted to do a follow-up question here. So let's take both. In case of Google, there's been this chatter, non-stop chatter around, doing away with the cookies, right? And
Yes.
also Facebook, because of the Apple's recent privacy policies, a lot of data may not get captured anymore. So how do you see the impact on the data collection and therefore more effective marketing going forward?
Yes, it's a very important question, and it is going to be a reality in every marketer's life in a couple of years. Uh, Google delayed it by a year, I think. They were going to implement it by 2022, but I think now it will get delayed to 2023. After that, the life won't be same, because digital marketers have long relied upon the cookie data and retargeting people across the platforms. So two things will become little important. One, is how you are using your internal data and whether you have started capturing internal data or no. That is one part that will become extremely important. As in, people who are relying only on, say, social media or doing sales through WhatsApp, or using not bringing customers to one point and not collecting that data, they will face some challenge, because if you have your own customers data and you have built some database and you understand your customer, then it is easier and even cost effective to reach out to those guys again. So that is one part. Second part that will become important is, obviously there will be some cheaper solutions available, like DMP, data management platform, say Lotame or Oracle Blue Sky, or there are agencies like Hansa and all, Swami and all. They are also building their own. So I'm with Madison. We have built our own DMP because we know that in future uh, customers will require this service. So building either you have to build your own database or rely on a DMP kind of a service. But the DMP comes with a cost, as against how you used to remarketing was pretty cheap, and so DMP will come with certain cost. So customers life, or then you will have to rely on data, like there are inbuilt apps on mobiles, or say Reliance Jio platform. So My Jio app will be used by millions of people. Then you will have to rely on these kind of publishers, but then your control will become less.
Understood. Great. I think, while there's a lot of emphasis on the data aspect of marketing, right? I wanted to get your take on how do you merge the creative part of marketing with all of this data? Like, how is that evolving?
Yeah, I think it is important to get creative in this whole game, because now what is happening, all the marketers, or even because there is so much availability of data, management is also becoming too focused on data or ultimate result that is coming out of the out of that campaign, and the focus on softer aspects of marketing is reducing. But we are not realizing that those softer aspects are only tilting your numbers in towards right or left, right? Whether that creative is appealing to uh, a certain audience, because I'll just give you an example. I won't take the name of the brand. I'm just running that campaign right now, and it's an apparel brand for women. Okay, and their focus is to reach out to the younger TG. Okay, and somehow we realize that the creative is not appealing to younger TG at all, and actually older TG, because it's an old brand. Even though they have created a new ad, the brand is old. And it may not be an aspirational brand for younger audience. So even though they were initially looking at what is the media campaign, how the media campaign is performing, actually when we looked at the bifurcation by age groups, then we realized that actually the older TG is responding much better to the uh, creative that we are running, and all the numbers are looking very positive on older TG. But when you're looking at a younger TG, those numbers are skewing the entire campaign's numbers.
Understood.
So not only creative, even the brand's appeal to a certain TG becomes very important. So then now they will have to continuously start making creatives which showcase younger TG, which talks to younger TG, which shows something that younger TG wants, right? So so creative becomes important in the performance of the campaign, because we had skewed almost 70-80% money on younger TG, and younger TG was not responding to this creative. It ended up giving lower performance on overall campaign. When we shifted that budget towards higher TG, the performance suddenly started looking good. So So yes, so along with the campaign performance or media performance, we'll have to look at how creative is impacting that performance.
Understood. I'll just take a couple of more questions on the core topic, and then I want to also talk about how marketers should, what kind of skills they should build as they take on this new amount of data that's coming in. Kushal is asking, how effective is device ID driven marketing? Any verified platforms that you would suggest?
Okay, can you give me an example? Device ID driven as in? That is Google. So
Kushal, you want to unmute and ask your question?
Yeah. Hi, Tushar.
hi.
I don't have much knowledge about the device. I was just doing my research and I stumbled upon this term called device ID marketing. And basically, if you ask me, I have like zero knowledge of. I didn't even know like device ID marketing like was existing. So I just wanted to know like what, like how does it even work and like how effective.
I don't know.
So
See,
when
if you have, yeah.
So when I read about it, it says basically it takes the mobile device IDs. For example, like if it's an Apple phone, it acquires the Apple ID information, and if it's like an Android, so it's like Android mobile device ID. I'm really not sure like how it works.
Yeah,
I'm still doing my.
I don't know. It must be some tool that is capturing device IDs and then helping you market to those IDs. But though any device ID in isolation doesn't mean anything. So what are the aspects of behavior or interest are associated with that ID is more important, right? So you might have millions of
yeah, exactly. I wanted to know like if like can a device ID really capture like our like whatever we do on your.
Yeah, it does. So as long as I have your device ID, but capturing your mobile number is much easier than capturing your device ID, right? So I can take your mobile number somewhere, but where do I get your device ID? I might use some DMP which has a which consolidates device IDs with some method and gives you a list of device IDs. See, anyways, it is a PII data, whether it is a device ID or your mobile number.
Okay.
So no platform can disclose it. At the most, it will say that I have 1 million device IDs who are interested in, say sports. And in case you want to promote shoes to them, then you can look at those 1,000 device IDs. But otherwise, that device ID doesn't mean anything to me.
Okay.
Ultimately, what is the cohort that is coming with that device ID is important.
Okay.
Yeah.
I agree. Just one. So before this startup, I used to work in one of the large Indian telcos. So just a couple of thoughts on there, right? So it kind of gives you a proxy to that TG, right? If you know that, okay, I have 1 million device IDs which are Apple phones, then it kind of allows you to segment that audience into a kind of the spend propensity, and therefore if you're targeting higher, a much more expensive products, then maybe you can target them. On the other hand, if you see that, okay, I have a lot of people on vernacular, for some reason you can detect the phone ID and the language installed on those phones, then you can start pitching for products which are more vernacular based and so on. So it gives you a proxy to allow you to do better targeting, like Tushar was also suggesting. Cool. I think last question, Tushar, is Ramchandra. No, actually, let me take this one. What is your take on application of machine learning or AI in marketing?
So my take is, yes, machine learning is important and it is being applied to multiple areas. So it depends on what we are looking at. For example, say Autobot, say chatbot we implement on our website. and that chatbot will keep on gaining insights in terms of what is being asked, or what answers people expect, on what they are responding to, on which answers they will click, and it will keep on improving. So these kind of machine learnings are certainly very important, and there can be other machine learnings like uh, uh, audio identification or voice identification will become very important, or accent identification is another example of machine learning, where 70% people speak in regional languages in that country. Voice identification is extremely important. Now you will see that when you are searching something on, say, Google or YouTube, Google is able to pick up your accent very easily. Earlier, there used to be spelling mistakes in what you ask for, but now you see very few mistakes in capturing the audio or voice. So that is another way of machine learning. I think machine learning uh, will keep on improving the way we function, or the way marketing happens, and we should keep on utilizing every new innovation that comes with machine learning. So machine learning is very broad term to me, and machine learning is happening everywhere. So machine learning is happening, say, probably uh, in every advertisement that we are running, and even Google, Facebook, and other publishers' data is getting richer and richer, and they know much better than us how to make use of that data, and provide the solutions. So I think machine learning is important, and we should look at the ways where our efforts reduce and we can make sense of what machine learning is doing. First, we should start understanding how do we make use of data, because right now you will be loaded with a lot of data that will come your way when we start marketing. So first we'll have to identify what data is important for us, how we should organize that data, and how we make sense of it. Then second stage is machine learning. So once you identify uh, what data is important for you and what is making your marketing effective, then you can decide that these four areas are improving my marketing campaign or marketing communication or customer acquisition. Then those four things you will have to define how you will improve those things without manual intervention and with machine learning. So then that machine learning will really apply and do some good for you. Otherwise, machine learning in isolation without understanding what you want to improve may not work.
Understood. Perfect. I think this is a good segue, Tushar, to also understand. We now know that there is obviously a lot of stuff we can do with our data, whether it is for short-term performance or to create our product vision, or even understand how creatives are working. How should a early professional in this space, think of becoming more data-driven, right? What are some key core skills that you would suggest that they should start building on?
Uh, first thing is intent. So no hard skill is required in this. You need all soft skills to become a data driven decision maker. One, you should have an intent to give your time and look through the report. I know marketing guys who run the campaign but don't look at the report. What's the point of running that campaign if you are not giving enough time to look at the report, analyze, and improve? The first and foremost thing is intent, because as I said earlier a couple of times, you are going to get lot of data when you start doing your marketing, but you should find time to look at the report that it is generating. And second thing you should look at is what organization's objective is, whether you are with an ad agency or you are with the customer or end consumer or e-commerce or a startup. What objective organization is looking at, what objective, whether it is marketing or sales or anybody, objective is the same, right? Objective does not change. Marketing's objective cannot be different than organization's objective. So if organization's objective is to gain market share and you are looking at optimizing the cost, then you are not looking at the right data. Then you should try and understand what organization expects out of you or expects out of that marketing campaign, and then start looking at those parameters first. So if those parameters are achieved, then at least you know that you are going in the right direction.
Understood.
Yeah,
Understood.
I think.
Got it. And I think I will just take a couple of minutes here, Tushar, to know, just adding on to what you suggested, right? There are a set of core digital marketing skills that everybody, or at least aspiring marketers, need to have. But along with that, this whole idea of, being data backed in your decisions, whether it is through proper problem solving and critical thinking, having a grasp of, how to use that data to come up with insights, and then iterating on your campaigns to make sure that your every new campaign is better than the previous one. I think those softer skills are equally important, right? To become more effective as a marketer. And keeping that in mind, guys, what we have done at Antwalk is that we have launched a master's program in digital marketing. The idea is very simple. It's the program is delivered by industry leaders who are working in top brands, whether it's Amazon or Hotstar or Google. They are the guys who understand this space. They are been doing this day in and day out. They will come and deliver the course. Second, it's a complete live program. It's not a pre-recorded kind of a content. All classes will happen on weekends, 2-hour classes, 3 such classes a weekend, so that you can interact directly with these experts and get your doubts resolved real time. And third is the idea is that it's not just listening and learning, it's actually putting it into practice. So every module will have a real world project that's been designed by these leaders, so that you can get your hands dirty, whether it's on the tools or whether it's on the concepts, right? And the whole duration of the program is around 16 weeks. And along with the core content, we will be focusing on very, very important soft skills or professional skills, which are becoming equally or more important nowadays, around problem solving, around communication, around critical thinking, understanding how to use Excel, make PPTs and so on, right? So the entire class will be almost 30% of the program will focus on the soft skills or the professional skills, so that it prepares you well for that career in digital marketing. So the program is going to be starting in late November. Do check it out. I have put the link on the chat box also. Of course, there are since you guys have taken time out and attended the session, we have special offers going for. If you're interested, please do sign up. And these are we all know that digital marketing is a very growing space, especially given that the businesses are all moving online. So if you are really interested in a career in digital marketing, either as a freelancer or as a trying to get a job in a good digital marketing function in an organization, do check out the program. Yeah. So thanks for that. Going back to Tushar, I think we have a couple of questions pending. We can just take, since we have a few more minutes. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure.
Right. So Ashish is asking, I guess you have covered that a little bit in the previous discussion, but he's saying how the data is being collected and shared by marketers. I think the sharing part is more important in this question.
Okay, shared with whom?
Ashish, are you there on the call? Do you want to elaborate on your question? I can see Ashish. Ashish, you want to unmute and ask a question? I guess he's not on his desk. No worries. I guess I think it's more about privacy. So what, in terms of data sharing, right? So it might be good to get your take on, how marketers should look at in terms of using this data.
Okay, I've used in few organizations, and we had pretty now of late the data security has become very important, and especially we going in the direction of GDPR and stuff. Using customer data or revealing customer data has very severe consequences. So most organizations are taking steps to protect the data or customer data they are capturing. Number one, they don't want to share that data, and there are very strict rules to share any data and approval framework before sharing any data with anybody. So even if it is going to the call center, there are very strict agreements between call center and the organization on data sharing. Okay, so those kind of agreements are coming into play. Still, people use the data, but at least there is framework available. Then there are consultants who are guiding people on GDPR rules. Then even government is taking a lot of initiatives to keep India's data within India, on servers within India and stuff like that. But at organization level or for marketing, I think every organization is defining some rules in terms of data sharing and usage of customer data. And I think we all should adhere to it and not share customer data. And now from TRAI and stuff, there are very severe consequences. So if you call a DND number, and if somebody complains to TRAI, and it is very simple, so you can go online and complain to TRAI with the mobile number or number from which a customer got a call. So if you don't have a consent of customer to call him, then your mobile number or that number from which call has gone may get barred. Okay, or you may get fined, or you will have to prove where you have taken consent of that customer to call if it is a promotional call. So these kind of things are happening, and we have to be very careful with the data.
Brilliant. I think that kind of summarizes today's discussion. Once again, thanks a lot, Tushar, for taking out time on Saturday and spending time with our audience. And I think we got a lot of interesting questions from the audience themselves. While I had a list of questions, I didn't get to cover all of them. So that's good. That's always good. Guys, let's give a thumbs up or a thanks if you guys enjoyed Tushar's session in the chat box. Please post your comments as well, and we will keep hosting more such sessions in the coming months as well. So do check out our events page and our Antwork homepage to keep registering for some of these events, which gives you all these nuances that will help you become better marketeers. And of course, if any of you is seriously looking at transitioning or making your career in digital marketing a lot more in depth, do check out our program and register for it, and we'll reach out to you as well. So once again, thanks Tushar for the time. It was a great session and we loved it. That's what the chat box already is saying. And we'll be looking forward to hosting you again in the near future. Thanks a lot again.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Shriram. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. I'm glad everybody liked it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Take care, guys.